So Danica, what does feminism mean to you?
For me, feminism is a social justice movement working towards gender equality, politically, socially, economically, opportunities for women, equal opportunities for women in education and jobs.
So do you think we still need it in the 21st century?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way in some places, like here on the west coast of BC, but there's places that women are still very oppressed and don't have very many rights, and we have a long way to go here as well.
Okay. So what drives you to make your art?
I think for me, making art is a compulsion. It's a bit like the dancer with the red shoes, and I can't really stop it. Sort of this creative drive that I can't stop or shut down. And I think that's what drives me creatively. I have these ideas, and I just really feel compelled to see what they look like.
So who would you say are your role models, or who inspires you?
Well, of course, the painters like Frida Kahlo, George O'Keeffe, Emily Carr, Artemisia Gentileschi, and I have to just a little aside, I actually saw 6 of Artemisia Gentileschi's pieces. In 2010, I was at an artist residency in Italy in a show called Caravaggio, where there was only one Caravaggio, but there were 6 Artemisia Gentileschi. So Aoi Kusama, she's a Japanese artist. She's in her 80s now. She has obsessive compulsive disorder, and she currently lives in a mental hospital. Her work is repetition and pattern and like infinite space. She uses reflections in mirrors so that the space becomes infinity and the patterns are replicated infinite times. And her work is really interesting, and she is now finally getting some acclaim. She has a retrospective at the Tate Modern in London that has started, I believe it started this week, and it goes till June. The second artist is Niki de Saint-Phalle. She's French, and she was born in 1930. She was a mother. She did have 2 children, but she divorced her husband, so maybe she had the kids half-time, and that's why she could make more art. And her work was really interesting. She was part of the Nouveau Realiste in France. Her first work was called Tiers, where she put balloons on behind canvas and she shot at it, and so the paint running down made the painting. Then she did Nanas, which were large, fat women, very brightly painted, kind of pregnant women, a bit like the Venus of Willendorf. And then she did a building architectural size one called Hun Cathedral, and I guess Hun means she in Scandinavian or in Swedish. And this was a building where you entered at the vulva, and there was a milk bar and a film theater, and it was this giant building in Stockholm in the 60s. And then her last work took 17 years. It's a sculpture garden in Italy. It's called the Tarot Garden. Also building and life-size sculptures of the figures of the tarot, all done in mosaic. She was inspired by Gaudi. Joseph Cornell is somebody else who really inspired me, especially the boxes. I just really loved the small, intimate, romantic, nostalgic little spaces he created. And then the last piece I want to talk about is the dinner party. It's a collaboration overseen by Judy Chicago. And it honored women who were left out of the recounting of history. And so it was to honor 39 women with a place setting.
So I'm going to ask you about Homage to Eve.
Sure.
Because the piece is very eloquent about a piece of creation mythology that has informed probably most of, well, actually many cultures around the world. What do you think that particular story has done in terms of how women are seen and women are constructed?
Well, I think historically that story has been really important in the sort of the structural oppression of women, especially by religion. I wasn't really thinking of that story that way when I made the piece. it's been used historically by religions. They have different religions have a different interpretation of that story. For me, it's a more personal story. It's, in a way, it's sort of, as I really thought about this, it's actually kind of my story, as all art is our story. At the time I made this piece, I was taking the whole idea of the apple, kind of literally eating the apple from the tree of knowledge. And I was in school, I was a student, my children were in school, and I was really grateful that I had the chance to go back and that I got to go to art school. And so I was sort of seeing it as, and a lot of people didn't think it was a good idea that I went to art school. You know, it doesn't make money, you can't get a job, etc., etc. And I know a woman who I graduated with who's a bit older than me, and she said her father didn't want her to go to art school, her husband didn't want her to go to art school, and they both died, so she did what she wanted, and she went to art school. So for me, I didn't wait that long. So I went to art school, so for me, eating the apple was, I followed my heart to do what I thought was what I needed to do to become an authentic person, not the person other people wanted me to be. And behind the demeanor of me as like a middle-aged, middle-class, modest, nondescript woman, you open the door and my heart is on fire. I'm madly eating apples, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm thinking, and I'm making art. And that's kind of what that means for me.
What's your vision as a women artist in the 21st century?
Well, I would like to see a world that's peaceful, egalitarian, earth-centered, family-friendly, peaceful, where there's a place, egalitarian, where there's a place there's a place for art, for our art, not just people who show in the big museums. And I think there's a need for feminism in the 21st century.
Oh, please, tell us why you think there's a need for yes, please.
Okay, there's actually 3 things I focused on. One is the way women are portrayed in the media, just the sexualization and objectification of women in the media. Women can't possibly look like that. Apparently, even Cindy Crawford wishes she looked like Cindy Crawford because it's photoshopped. The clothes they present objectify women because you couldn't possibly move or do anything in the outfits that they show in some of those fashion magazines. And then there's Martha Stewart. Nobody could possibly do what she does without a whole mansion full of maids, and having maids sets up a hierarchy that doesn't fit into the egalitarian vision of the world I would like to see.
So where do you think this obsession with perfection comes from? Whose idea is that anyway?
It's kind of like it's a way to set women up to feel bad about themselves. So, the second thing is reproductive justice. And the third thing is safety and violence. I know there's been a lot of work done. We've moved forward on issues of domestic violence, but there's a man who's probably around my age who's been speaking for the last 25 years at universities, and his name is Jackson Katz, and the book is called The Male Paradox. And he asks men, he goes to universities and colleges and he asks the men to describe the ways that they prevent getting raped every day. And, you know, generally there's sort of nothing, you know, I feel fine, I'm okay. And then they ask the women, and the women, like men, are blown away at all the things women do to avoid violence every day. Like, don't live in a ground floor apartment, have a male number on your answering machine, don't go out at night, walk around with your keys in your hand, don't go in the woods alone. And I myself have had a few experiences of being chased by naked men when running in the endowment lands or riding my bike. Being followed home when I rode my bike home at night. And today I had a violent experience against me. I pulled into park and there wasn't enough room. It was at a bus stop and a man pulled in behind me and he wouldn't let me out. And I got out to ask him to move and he called me